Welcome back, bestie! It's me, Maggie, your bestie for the restie. Welcome back! Today I'm going to be doing a little painting time lapse for you guys while also telling you about my apartment from hell. I still live in this apartment. I wish I didn't because, again, it's from hell. But my lease does not end until March, so we are stuck here for a few more months. So I thought I might as well release some of the anger I have inside by ranting about it to you. This is going to be like a little vent session. It'll be really healthy, you know? Why not just dwell on it a little more? And this is just in the background. I'm going to be painting this commission, but I'm going to cut in some random pictures and videos because I want to give you guys a little first-hand look at how horrible some of the things I'm talking about are. There's going to be some nastiness in these pictures, so get ready. So first I thought I would give you guys a little bit of a backstory about why I chose this apartment, why I moved where I did, and all of that. I currently live in Kansas City. That's as specific as I'm gonna get because, you know, stalkers. I originally moved here because I was living in California and it was just way too expensive and it was crazy with COVID and kind of scary, so I got out of there and now I live in Kansas City and it's closer to my family. I ended up choosing this apartment basically out of there being no other options, but it did look really nice when we first visited it. I live here with my boyfriend, so if I say we, that's who I'm talking about. His name is Elijah also. I might refer to him as Elijah. Whenever we first came and looked at this apartment, it was super nice. The outside was a little rough, but the inside was freshly renovated, super nice looking, all new appliances, brand new flooring, a fresh paint job, everything was brand new, and it looked pretty good, so I was actually really excited. Now, when I mentioned earlier that we had very limited options, it's because there was just not a lot available at the time. We were looking for an apartment in February of 2021, and for some reason there was barely anything available, so that was the first problem. And secondly, we had a pretty low budget at the time. But the apartment that we ended up moving into is maybe about 800 square feet. I'm not 100% sure the exact square footage because I couldn't find it listed anywhere, but it's pretty small. It's 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and this place is $950 a month, and that includes water and heat, but we have to pay electric and Wi-Fi. We officially ended up moving in on March 8th, and things pretty much were crappy from the first day. The day we moved in, I went into our bedroom and I noticed that the window above our bed was cracked. And I'm not talking a little crack, I'm talking like if you pushed on it too hard, the whole thing would shatter. It was a crack all the way from one corner to the other corner of the window, and this meant that it was kind of dangerous. Somebody could just get into our place because we're also, like I said, on the bottom floor, so it would not be that hard to just push on the window and get on in. So I ended up contacting my landlord on the 8th, and in total I had to contact him 4 different times before he finally took care of the issue. It was finally fixed 1 month after I contacted him. I wanted to be able to tell you guys the first issue that we ever had since it did happen on the first day. I thought it was good to know when these things started, but I am going to skip to some of the bigger issues that happened. But in the middle here, there were a lot of smaller issues, like I had a giant crack in my toilet bowl and it was leaking toilet water and it took like 3 months to fix, or my heater was leaking. There was different small things like that that kept happening, or my sink was broken, my dishwasher leaked, different stuff like that, but I'm going to skip to the big things because y'all want the tea, the big boiling hot tea, so let's get into that. So starting on June 3rd, I call this section the Great Flood. It was June 3rd and I woke up in the middle of the night and went out to the hallway to go to the bathroom. And I noticed there was a weird sound, like running water, and the floor felt weird, like squishy. And I don't know, it's like fake hardwood, it's like laminate, but he calls it tile, but it's definitely not tile. I don't know. It's like laminate, I think. And, you know, not typically squishy. It's not like carpet or something. And as I was walking, I realized every step I took made like a running water squishy sound. And I'll insert a little clip here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So I realized that this was water all running underneath my floor. And when you would walk, it was actually also pooling underneath my carpet and pouring out of the walls. So my entire place was flooded with about an inch of water. So I called my landlord. He didn't answer because it was the middle of the night, and I left him a text and contacted him again in the morning, and he called me and asked me what was going on, and I explained it, and he acted like this was just so bizarre, so crazy, never heard of this before, and that I was the only one it was happening to. I ended up finding out later that this was actually happening to the entire building, and that it actually had happened several times in years past and had never actually been fixed. I ended up finding this out from the plumber that finally ended up coming, but I will get into that later. Ended up fixing this by having a guy come and snake the pipe under my water heater because they said it was from my water heater not properly draining and water coming up into my apartment. I had to have all of my carpets ripped up and huge dehumidifiers brought into my apartment, and since it's so small already, it was really hard to maneuver around, and this was set up, and finally my carpet was dried out about a week later. And then the day after they removed the dehumidifiers and pinned back down my carpet, June 10th, it was a second flood. The exact same type of flood, but it was way worse. There was far more water. It was gushing out of the walls and floor, and I didn't even have any water running. My carpets were completely soaked, and I had family visiting at the time, and again it happened in the middle of the night. Called my landlord, no answer, so I had to wait all the way till the morning when it was even more soaked, and finally he answered and said, "Oh, well, it's not happening to anyone else, so it must be something to do with you, like you're doing something." And I was like, I was literally asleep, so I'm not doing anything, but good try. So let's figure out something else to fix it. So he, believe it or not, sent over the exact same guy to do the exact same fix. And he said, well, it probably was not snaked properly, so let's get them to do it again. So they unclogged the same pipe and dehumidified my carpet once again, had to rip it all up again, had that annoyance again, and then they finally pinned it back down a week later, and guess what? 2 or 3 days after, on June 20th, there was a third flood. This third flood was equally as horrible as the last one. So much water pouring out of everywhere. It was in the middle of the night, and this was the flood that ended up completely damaging my wooden floors. Well, my laminate floors. They were all warped and squishy in parts and popping up, and it was horrible. They were officially donezo. I also had to have my carpet dehumidified, guess what, a third time. And I contacted my landlord, and he told me he was going to send the same guy, and I had it. I told him, no, you're not. You're going to send an actual plumber, because that obviously is not the real issue, and I cannot deal with your Band-Aid fixes. So I had to get a little sassy with him, but I got that in me if I got to. I got a little bit of sass in me if I got to bring it out. So I brought it. He said, okay, fine, I will send so-and-so another guy, an actual plumber. It took the plumber quite a while to figure out what the actual issue was, but when he finally found out, it was a pipe connecting my upstairs neighbor's bathroom down to the drain. And this pipe had been busted. So every time my neighbor upstairs would flush or run their sink or anything like that, the water was pouring down through the pipe into my wall and under my floor, and that's where all of it was coming from. I will be inserting more pictures of everything now, but basically we had to have a giant hole cut into our wall and have that pipe replaced, but they had to order different parts for it. Mind you, this whole time we also still did not have our floor replaced, and we were just living on like concrete, like a garage, and that was disgusting. So this ended up taking in total about 6.5 weeks to finish, and then the floor took an additional 2 or 3 weeks to finish. So we were dealing with that for about 2 months. The next issue that happened that I'm going to talk about is the sewage smell. So starting on July 18th, there was a smell that would spontaneously fill the entire living room and basically the entire apartment, and it smelled like a rotten butthole. I thought this might just be something with the bathroom fan, like bringing the poop smell into the living room when somebody would use the bathroom. But it was not that, because we realized eventually that it was not happening when people would go to the bathroom. It was happening just any time of the day randomly. I texted my landlord about this, and he said he would come over and check it out. I wasn't home at the time, but he has a key, so he got in and said that he could smell it, but that it just smelled like Chinese food. I'm not sure what Chinese food you're eating. I'm not sure what Chinese restaurant hurt you. But last time I checked, Chinese food does not smell like rotting butthole. I like Chinese food. I was offended by this. So I told him, okay, I don't think that's the case, but I will let you know when the smell is happening again, and I will text you to come over when I'm home so that we can talk about it. And it finally happened again, and he came over and he said, okay, yeah, it smells bad. And I was like, I know, thank you. So he finally had somebody come, the plumber, that's been fixing all my problems, which the plumber was my landlord, and he came over and looked at the issue to try to fix it. It actually turned out that there was a pipe that came up under our apartment that was supposed to have a cap on it, but that did not have a cap on it. And because it did not have a cap, it was leaking sewage gas into our apartment. So that means that every time anyone in our entire building would flush their toilet, the smell of their dookie was in our apartment. Now, during this entire time, because that was July 18th, but during this entire scenario, our AC was also broken, and our AC was broken for 2 weeks. And let me just describe this experience for you. There's no floor. It's just dirty concrete. Your carpet is still being dried out, so it's a little squishy, a little bit of a squish there. It smells like raw dookie in your apartment, and it's like 90 degrees, so it's hot raw dookie, no floor. I am not okay to this day. I don't know if I'll ever recover. This is trauma. This is therapy worthy. Let's get into the last and final issue that happened, and that is still happening. And that is the leaking ceiling in my art studio. I will again insert some photos and videos of this. It started out by just a wet spot on the ceiling, and I thought, oh, there's probably a leak there. Let my landlord know, didn't fix it. So he finally sent over my maintenance guy to take a look, and he realized he needed to cut a giant hole in my ceiling and wait until it rained, and then he could see where it was coming from. So I will insert a video where it was coming from, everywhere, that's where it was coming from, leaking through the floor. But it was apparently leaking somewhere from outside the building and running down the floor and into my ceiling. They filled this leak, but they are not going to be fixing my ceiling, apparently. And I'm not going to ask them to, because I would rather just work with a hole in my ceiling during holiday season than not have a studio, because from their track record, I would not be having my studio fixed or the hole in the ceiling fixed for 2 or 3 months. So that is that, and that is my apartment horror story. I'm sure there will be new things that happen, because I still have 3 or 4 months left. Who knows what could happen next? It's exciting. It's like kind of like a horror movie, a little bit of suspense happening here. Thanks for sticking around, and thanks for watching me paint at the same time and talk about dookies. If you want me to film more time-lapse story times, I'd be more than happy to. Your girl's been through it. I got lots of stories to tell. And if you enjoyed this, you could like it or don't or whatever. So I love you. I love you. I love you. And goodbye.